Hello everyone, and welcome back. In this class I'm going to do a brief presentation of a type of resource called Render Pass, which is the subject of this section of the course. And for that I'm going to use this file, which you find available for download along with this class. Render passes are information that is generated by the renderer, and that can be stored on separate layers of the final image. Some of these passes directly contribute to the formation of the final image, while others do not directly contribute to the final image, but can be used to create different types of adjustments and effects in the compositor. To start illustrating what render passes are, I'm going to enable the rendered viewport view mode here at the top of the interface. With this mode we have a very close view of what the final rendered image will be. When a scene is rendered in Blender, the final image consists of a combination of various elements such as direct light, indirect light, reflections, among others. If we click on this arrow next to the viewport viewing options, we have access to the viewport shading menu. The options that are available in this menu depend on which view mode is enabled. Here in the rendered view, we will find this menu called Render Passes. The default option for this menu is the Combined option. And what this option shows is precisely the final result of the combination of render passes that contribute directly to the final image. If we change this option to Diffuse Direct, for example, what we will see is the isolated effect of the lighting caused by the direct light sources of the scene. If we switch to the Diffuse Indirect option, we will only see the effect of indirect lights, that is, the effect of the lights that bounce from the surfaces. And if we switch to the Diffuse Color option, we will only see the surface color of the objects, without interference from any type of lighting. It is important to note that the options available in this menu vary slightly depending on which renderer is active. The render passes that are available for Eve and Cycles are slightly different, but the concept behind how it works is the same for both renderers. These viewport shading menu viewport options are very good so that we can view some of the render passes separately, even before rendering the image. However, we cannot enable the use of composition passes here. If we want to enable the passes so that they are available at the time of composition, we have to access the View Layers tab of the Properties editor. Here, we'll find the Passes panel, where we'll be able to mark each of the passes that we want to be rendered as separate layers. When we enable a render pass here, it is available in an individual output socket in the Render Layers node of the compositor. And each render pass will be able to be used for different purposes. There are three different types of render passes: data passes, light passes, and cryptomatte passes. We already worked with cryptomatte passes in the previous section. As we saw in the classes where I talked about cryptomattes, these passes create separate masks, or mattis, for each object in the scene. These masks can be used so that the effect of almost any resource in the compositor is restricted to the area chosen with the cryptomatte. Light passes are passes related to scene lighting. Eve and Cycles separate lighting components a little differently. But generally speaking, the two renderers allow lighting elements such as light, reflection, and color to be rendered on separate layers. And the separation of these elements allows us to make adjustments with a lot of control at the time of composition. Data passes are technical information about the 3D scene, such as scene depth and surface normal orientation. When rendered in separate passes, this information can be used for different features and effects at compositing time. Throughout this section, we will see how we can use the main render passes to make different types of adjustments during the compositing process with enormous control. So that's it for this class. Thank you for watching, and I see you next.